Welcome back to What the Health? Today, we're talking about one of the most misunderstood, most stigmatized, and most debated topics in healthcare today, addiction. And I know that made some of your booty holes pucker and y'all are tensed up because maybe you're dealing with addiction. Maybe you've lived it. Maybe because someone you love is dealing with addiction right now. Maybe because this word, addiction, feels like a fucking life sentence. But let me ask you something. What do you picture when I say the word addict? Someone homeless on the street, shaking, itching, desperate for a fix? Or a washed-up rock star in and out of rehabs? Maybe it's someone you know who's locked up for dealing drugs. See, that's the misconception. That's the lie we've been told about addiction. We think it's some dramatic, rock bottom, can't function, lost it all kind of thing. But the truth is, addiction can look like your next door neighbor, the PTA mom. It can look like your favorite coworker, your best friend. Addiction, it looks like you. So today, we're going to get real. We're going to break down what addiction actually is and what happens to your brain when you start using. We're going to talk about some of the biggest myths and the stigma that keep people sick. We'll talk about functioning addiction, what it is, who it affects, and the dangers of denial. And why asking for help feels so goddamn impossible. And how shame traps people in addiction. So just a forewarning, today's episode might be a trigger for some of you, because I'm not going to lie. It is going to get raw, uncomfortable, and unapologetically honest. But if you're struggling with addiction, whether you're sober, in recovery, or fresh off a call with the plug, I encourage you to stick around, because shit is about to get real on What the Health. All right, friends, so let's cut through the bullshit, shall we? What is addiction really? Well, we've been told it's a bad habit. It's a lack of willpower, a moral failing, a personal shortcoming. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. Addiction is not about bad choices. It's about your brain literally becoming hijacked. This isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. This is straight up science, y'all. Your brain right now is made up of about 86 billion neurons. And those are those little nerve cells that constantly send messages and receive signals throughout your body to try and control everything from your heartbeat to your emotions to your cravings. And addiction fucks everything up and changes the way those neurons fire. So let's break this down to a cellular level, but I'm going to try to do it in a way that actually makes sense. It's going to have 5 different sections. The first one I'm going to call the dopamine hijack, because this is how we're going to talk. This is where we're going to talk about how addiction affects dopamine in your brain. So first, we got to talk about dopamine. That's the chemical, the neurotransmitter in your brain that makes you feel good. You know, when you get a runner's high after you orgasm after sex. Your brain naturally releases dopamine when you do things that are good for survival, like eating a healthy meal, having sex, or even when you get a compliment. It's your brain's way of saying, hey, that felt good, do it again. But here's where addiction comes in. Drugs, alcohol, gambling, even sugar flood your brain with way more dopamine than anything natural. And guys, your brain wasn't built for that kind of overload. So what does it do? It starts freaking out and trying to adjust. So think of it like this. Imagine you're in a dark room, right? And someone turns on a flashlight. It hurts your eyes, it's bright, but it's manageable. Now imagine that same dark room and someone shines a stadium floodlight in your eyes. Not so easy. Guys, your brain is the dark room and addiction is the floodlight. At first, of course, you feel an intense rush. You've never felt better in your life. But over time, your brain tries to dim the light. It starts shutting down dopamine receptors, making it harder for you to feel pleasure from anything that isn't your drug of choice. That's why some people who are addicted to like opioids, alcohol, gambling will start losing interest in every other aspect of their life, their food, relationships, even sex. Their brain literally stops responding to natural rewards. And this is why addiction isn't just about liking something too much. It's about needing it just to feel normal, just to feel like you can get through your day.
Oh,
And now that we know that addiction floods your brain with dopamine and forces it to shut down its natural receptors in order to compensate for the extra dopamine in your system, you develop what's called tolerance. And this means that over time, you're going to need more and more of your drug of choice just to get that same effect you did initially. Think of it like it's like when you start drinking coffee, right? The first time you've ever had caffeine, man, you are flying high. You're wired. You are sweating while sitting still. But after a few weeks, that one cup just doesn't do much. And fast forward a year, you're going to need 3 to 4 cups just to hit baseline. Now I want you to apply that same concept to heroin, alcohol, meth, painkillers, nicotine, caffeine, pretty much anything. What used to get you high barely touches you anymore. What used to take the edge off doesn't even scratch the surface. And what used to help you escape has now put you in fucking handcuffs. You need it just to get through the day. And this is why addiction is so progressive. Y'all, it doesn't stay at one level. It escalates. What started as just a little bump at the party turns into, I can't stop. And when you can't stop and you start going through withdrawal, and this is when your brain really turns against you guys. And this is when addiction becomes a full-blown prison. At this point, your brain has just adjusted so much that when you take away the drug, alcohol, behavior, whatever it is, your body revolts. And this is the welcome wagon to the world of withdrawal. So withdrawal is your brain freaking the fuck out because it's been so used to functioning with a substance, it literally doesn't know how to work without it anymore. And withdrawal, I don't care who has told you, it is not just a bad hangover. Depending on the substance, I'm going to run through a list of side effects like I'm doing a drug commercial on television. So withdrawals can cause anxiety, paranoia, cravings, extreme depression, sweating, nausea, fatigue, and full body shakes, hot flashes, cold flashes, insomnia that lasts for days, irritability, hallucinations, headaches, severe pain, muscle spasms, even seizures. And bonus, withdrawal from alcohol or benzos like Xanax, Klonopin can actually kill you. And this is why people don't just quit cold turkey. Not because they don't want to, because God knows that they do, but it's because their body and brain physically will not let them. So even after someone gets sober, addiction leaves behind something dangerous called memory triggers. So your brain's hippocampus is the part of your brain responsible for storing memories. Well, it doesn't just store memories in events, it stores emotional associations. And this is why things like a song, a smell, a place on the road can trigger cravings even years later. So let's say like you used to drink Jack Daniels while listening to Johnny Cash, and eventually your brain connects Johnny Cash to drinking alcohol. So let's fast forward and you're 5 years sober. You hear that ring of fire in Johnny Cash's smoky voice and boom, that craving is back. Or maybe you used to pop pills in the bathroom at work. So now, every time you walk into that stall, your body starts expecting that drug. Addiction doesn't just live in the moment. It rewires memory, emotion, and instinct. That's why relapse isn't just a lack of willpower. It's about neurological landmines that are just waiting to go off. So after saying all this, it doesn't seem too hopeful, right? At this point, you might be thinking, well, shit, Sarah, if addiction rewires the brain this much, is there even hope? And the answer? Abso-fucking-lutely. your brain can heal. It's got this really cool function called neuroplasticity, where your brain is able to rewire itself, and it is real. But for that to happen, in order to recover completely, it takes time, effort, and most importantly, support. You don't just snap out of addiction. You retrain your brain to function without your drug of choice. And that's why recovery is more than just stopping the drug. It's about rebuilding your dopamine supply, repairing memories, and relearning how to feel joy without being high. And that's the hardest part. Because when you've spent years numbing your emotions, feeling things again, it's a son of a bitch. And it is overwhelming as fuck. But here's the thing. People have been doing it for ages. People do it every single day. Your brain can recover. Your cravings will fade. And best of all, you don't have to do it alone. I want to emphasize that addiction isn't about weakness. It's not about being a bad person. It's not about being a good person. It's not about success or failure. It's about the brain getting stuck in a cycle that feels impossible to break. But I'm here to tell you recovery is possible. And if you're listening to this thinking, damn, that sounds like me, you're not alone, guys. In this next section, we're going to talk about the stigma, the shame, and why asking for help feels fucking impossible. So let's bust some of these biggest myths, shall we? These things that keep people from getting the help they need. And this is one of my favorite. I'm going to give you 3 of the most bullshit myths about addiction. First up is addiction is a choice. No, it is not. Was it a choice the first time someone used? Maybe. But by the time addiction takes hold, that choice is gone. That person doesn't have a choice anymore. If it was really just about willpower, people wouldn't be losing their homes, families, careers. They wouldn't fucking die for it. The second myth, you have to hit rock bottom to get better. And I know you've heard people say this, and this is one of the most dangerous lies out there. We just got to let her hit rock bottom before we'll help her. People think, well, I still have my job. My wife hasn't left me. I'm not homeless. I'm fine. But listen, addiction doesn't wait for rock bottom. By the time you hit it, you've already been there too long. The last myth I want to talk about, and we're going to segue to something after this, is if you can function, you don't have a problem. I know people with full-blown opioid addictions who wake up, take their kids to school, go to work, and no one suspects a thing. I know doctors, actual surgeons who are addicted to opioids or alcohol and are still performing surgeries. Guys, functioning doesn't mean healthy. It just means you're better at hiding it. So I'm going to tell you guys a little story about a patient of mine that I'm going to call Matt. So Matt was a 43-year-old patient of mine. He was a dad, a husband, a successful banker. If you met him, you'd think, shit, Matt's got everything together. This guy's life is on track. But what people didn't see was that Matt hadn't gone a single day without drinking in over 15 years. Not one single day. But see, it didn't start as a problem. He had his first drink at 16, like we all did, sitting in field parties around bonfire, drinking cheap beer at Boone's Farm. By college, Matt was drinking on the weekends, which is no big deal. He still got good grades, got a good job, ended up getting married. His life was great. But then came the stress, the pressure of work, the expectations of being a provider, a father, the man of the house. And suddenly it wasn't just Friday night drinks with the guys. It was a drink or two every night to unwind. Then 2 turned into 3. 3 turned into a bottle. A bottle turned into, I can't function without starting my day with a drink. And the crazy part is, no one knew. Matt still woke up every single morning at 6 a.m., got his kids up, fed, ready for school, showed up to all of his work meetings, made awesome business deals, smiled at PTA functions. He never smelled like alcohol, never slurred his words, never missed a deadline. He worked out, kept up with his friends. He even coached his son's soccer team. And that's kind of the thing about functioning addiction. It hides in plain sight. But this is when things started to unravel for Matt. His wife started noticing little things. A few empty bottles hidden under the leftovers from the night before in the trash. Nights where he'd pass out on the couch instead of coming to bed. And mornings where he just looked off, kind of pale and sweaty and shaky, just out of it. So she asked him, "Are you drinking more than usual?" And you know what he said? "Nope, I'm fine." Because that's what we do, right? We tell ourselves we're fine. We go to work hungover and call it being tired. We drink every night and call it relaxing. We ignore the fact that we have lost major portions of the night before and just attribute it to things getting a little too out of hand, too wild, right? That's what Matt did, and he did it for years. Until one night, Matt didn't wake up. His wife came downstairs the next morning and found him on the couch next to a half-empty bottle of Jack Daniels, his skin cold, his lips blue, his soul gone. And the autopsy report later said that his liver was so scarred from years of drinking that it had just given out. Matt wasn't homeless. Matt wasn't a drunk in the streets. He wasn't a lush. He wasn't a lost cause. He was just a guy who thought he had it under control until the day he didn't. So if you don't hear anything else, I need you to hear this. Just because you're holding it together doesn't mean you're not falling apart. It doesn't matter if you still have your job, your family, your life right now. Addiction doesn't wait until it's convenient to destroy you. If any of this sounds familiar, if you're hiding bottles, if you're lying to people you know about how much you drink or the drugs you do, if you're waking up every day telling yourself, "I can stop anytime, just not today," please don't wait until your body decides for you. Next up, let's talk about why people don't ask for help. If it's such a popular and problematic thing, why are people not asking for it? Well, let's talk about shame, because addiction is one of the most shame-ridden medical conditions out there. People who have struggled with addictions fear losing their jobs, losing their kids, being judged by their families, by their friends, admitting that they don't have control like everyone thinks they do. And let's be real honest, the way we talk about addiction does not help. We call people junkies and drunks, and we mock celebrities for going to rehab and then act completely shocked when they relapse. We tell people, just knock it off, just stop, like it's just that easy. Shame doesn't help people recover. It keeps them stuck, friends. Addiction thrives in secrecy. Shame keeps people from reaching out. And every day, people are dying in silence because of it. Let me tell you about Jake. Jake was this 27-year-old guy that I was seeing in clinic. He worked in finance. He was smart as shit. He was the guy who could outwork everyone, outdrink everyone, outparty everyone. He was a great time. But behind closed doors, Jake was using cocaine every morning just to get out of bed. Not to party, not to have fun, just to fucking function. Jake knew he had a problem. He knew that his heart would start racing out of nowhere. He knew his hands would shake when he went too long without using. And he knew that that boost he used to get wasn't hitting like it was before. But he also knew that the second he admitted it, he would lose everything. Or at least that's what he believed. He thought if he told his family, they would disown him. Isn't that what we all think sometimes? That they won't love us? He thought if he told his job, that they would fire him. He thought if he told his friends, they would see him as weak. So what did Jake do? Well, Jake did nothing. He kept working. He kept pretending. Kept hoping that no one would notice. Until one day, he didn't show up to work. Jake, at 27, had a stroke. His body simply couldn't take it anymore. And the part that broke my heart about Jake's story was when his mom went to his house to pick up a few things for him. She threw some clothes in a bag, packed his toothbrush and deodorant, and when she went to grab his phone off the counter, her breath caught in her throat. There, in Jake's outgoing messages were more than 7 unsent text messages. Texts he typed out, messages where he had started to tell people and ask for help. I think I need help, it said. I don't think I can stop on my own, guys. Please don't hate me. But Jake never hit send. And that is what shame does. It makes people think they are too far gone. It convinces them that their loved ones will never understand. It tells them, you're broken, you're weak, you are beyond help. And that is a lie. This is where the difference between shame versus guilt comes in. And here's something a lot of people don't realize. There's a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. And that distinction, guys, it is life or death for someone struggling with addiction. Guilt can be a motivator. It makes people want to change, to better themselves. But shame is a prison. It convinces people they are unworthy of change. And this is why so many people don't ask for help, because they think they're too damaged. Here's what I want to say to anyone out there who is struggling right now. If you're listening to this, you are not broken. You are not beyond help. And you do not have to do this alone. The people who love you, they want you here. This world is better because you exist. And I know it's terrifying to say the words, I need help. But what's even scarier to me is never getting the chance to say them at all. After everything we've talked about today, here's the real question. Can people actually recover? And the answer is yes, but not alone. Addiction isn't about willpower. It's about support, treatment, and giving your brain the chance to heal. So what does recovery actually look like for a person that suffers with addiction? Well, first step is you got to get through the withdrawal. The first few weeks are hell, but it does get better. Then you got to rebuild your dopamine naturally. Things like exercise, therapy, medication can help restore the balance in your brain. Number 3 is learning how to live without the crutch, finding joy while sober, and that takes time. And lastly, having people in your corner, support groups, therapy, friends who get it. You need a team in your corner, guys. And the biggest thing I want you to remember, relapse is part of recovery. It is not failure. It is not weakness. It is just part of the process. If you're listening to this and thinking, I need help, but I don't know where to start, here's what I want you to do. Easy, one step. Just tell someone, a friend, a therapist, a family member. Hell, tell me if you need to, but say something because you are worth it and you do not have to do this alone. All right, guys, if this episode hit home for you, if you've struggled, if someone you love is struggling, just know this. You are not alone. You are not a failure. You are not beyond help. I know how heavy this is. I know how easy it is to say, I'll figure it out later. But please don't wait until later becomes never. And I know we just covered a lot of darkness today, but I want to assure you that next time we're going to talk about something that's turning into a light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of people. We're going to talk about psychedelics in medicine. Could drugs like ketamine, MDMA, and psilocybin actually retrain the brain and heal addiction? Or are we just replacing one high with another? We're diving into the science, the controversy, and whether this is the future of mental health treatment or just another dangerous trend. And today, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and always choose kindness. Take care, guys.